I like the way that this opens up with us having conversation right before you do
Yeah.
the announcement.
Yeah, I like the non sequiturs and the kind of strange intro moments. The method behind the magic.
Magic behind the method, the madness behind the method.
Welcome to a bold and distant future. It is June 11th. Been watching the primaries very carefully, well, as carefully as I can, and this last one on June 9th had some surprising twists and turns that might signal a blue wave, which would be really cool. So we'll get into that today, and then at the end of the show, we'll have a longer presentation from Craig talking about his recent trip across the country, and we're calling that segment the Observations from the Road.
I think we should call it On the Road, just nod to Kerouac.
I thought so too. Maybe just shorten it to From the Road.
Yeah, we just call it Road.
That's good. Let's just call it Road. Getting on the road.
Actually, Craig, what do you want to call it? It's your thing.
I like On the Road. I was just worried that it wouldn't provide that fantastic allure that Kerouac's, call did. Mine might be infinitely more mundane, but grounded, I should say. But yeah, that'd be great. Let's call it On the Road.
Okay.
And then
Today,
we can reference both Steinbeck's trip and Kerouac's work.
Great. We'll work it out.
Yeah.
This is happening this weekend. The first UFC Freedom 250 bloodbath is going to happen on the White House lawn June 14th, Sunday. Sunday, a family day to get together, and there's going to be blood on the lawn.
Mm-hmm.
And it's part of me wants it to be as gruesome as possible and just to show the brutality of it, but I'm also saying we should all boycott it. But it's hard to boycott something that you want to watch, although I will report on it here. Is anyone else watching it, boycotting it? How are we feeling about it?
I'm going to boycott just in the same way I lost interest in the Easter egg hunt on the same lawn many years ago. So.
That's a good analogy. I don't know. We'll see. I probably will skip it, but I'm not going to go out of my way to. I'm not even sure what a boycott looks like.
Well,
when it's
we
on
need
TV.
someone to report back about it. That's the double-edged sword. So we need to know what happened.
I'll happily volunteer.
Okay, that would be great if you could report back about the travesty of that. It's like a desensitization. Yes, of the American psyche. This is happening. Joan Baez put this up on her Instagram page, Power to the People concert that is happening way out in October 3rd, but it looks like a real powerful event.
Yeah, that's really neat.
Now, Columbia, MD, that's Maryland, right?
Yep.
Wow.
I don't know, but I assume it's a suburb of D.C.
Right. So, wow, a lot of big people, big names, Foo Fighters, Tom Morello, Springsteen makes an appearance. So
half these I don't know.
Jack Black, Dropkick Murphys.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's what we need more and more of. Yep.
We do. Scott Pelley from 60 Minutes was fired.
Mm-hmm.
Basically fired by Barry Weiss and the other fellow who's sort of running 60 Minutes. These newcomers who have come in and sort of cleaned house at 60 Minutes, and he does a great interview. Take a look at it, and he called them out at a meeting.
In real journalism, it's seeking the truth. I followed up since the road trip. I use Flipboard on my iPad and look at the conservative view, and it's really interesting their take on Pele, and right away how they denounce him, calling him a coward, a weakling, not really a contemporary journalist. First the name calling, and then secondly trying to dive in and say how misguided and wrong he is. And the media is just the fools for picking it up and broadcasting that.
These are the days of censorship,
Yeah.
And this happened at an art school in Savannah, Georgia. It's a smaller school. It's I think it's an art school, but it could just be a regular high school with a big art department. And students were asked to do art that was, I don't know if they were asked to do art that was anti-ICE or if that was their choice. But because of their artwork, the teacher was put on suspended without pay. But a lot of people in the community came up to support the teacher, but it's just these small kinds of acts of, I would call them acts of cowardice on the behalf of administrations and schools that don't want to live out, freedom of speech, It's really...
What does this mean? Suspended without pay, I get, but does this also mean that the teacher is potentially going to be fired?
It could, yeah, because if the teacher didn't obey whatever discriminatory rules that the district is putting in place, then they would could move forward with termination on those grounds.
So this is a warning.
Yeah, but shocking.
It's a slap down. It's like, I don't get it. But
Oh, I totally get it.
And it's a slap down of someone who virtually has no power, no authority, no networking that they can depend upon to rebound from the censorship. So instead of going after the big leagues or the big wigs and trying to censor them who could battle back, then you go ahead and hit all the less empowered working people.
Yeah, I see it as the administration in terror of the PTA.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There probably are parents who will complain at the school board meeting, and they don't want that. Administrators tend to not want trouble. They don't want to bring any trouble to the school, and they don't want parents in the office. You know what I mean? And so anything to deflect that. Okay, we'll fire them. We'll suspend them. We'll cancel it. It makes it easier for them because they don't want to be in that hot seat. And who would, really? But this is where the different FIFA World Cup games are being held across the country, Canada, Mexico, and the United States. And that starts this weekend, or maybe today, June 11th. I think the first games might be in Mexico. Mexico's somewhere in Mexico City. So
we got 3 choices in Mexico.
This will play out for the next 3 or 4 weeks. And the final game will be in New York, New Jersey, somewhere.
What do these numbers mean?
I think that's number of games played in those locations, I believe. I just wanted to be aware of this because there have been international implications already with flights and different coaches and people being, even players, I think, sort of stopped at the border coming in, It's been...
Yeah, something like that happened with the Nigerian team, I believe. They showed up and they weren't let in. They had to go through all sorts of rigmarole in order to... I don't know how that actually worked out.
Right.
But I heard that they were basically stopped at the border.
Yeah.
They didn't have their visas in order or something.
Another point is I love that it has that purple background on the image because that's a real indicator of what our nation is in terms of red-blue dynamic. And this is like the perfect target audience or focus group to talk with people and find out what they're thinking and feeling. Because you're going to get collections of lots of different kinds of people, lots of different economic classes that are going to be at those experiences. Talk with those people and find out. So certainly legacy media won't, but I'm hoping the YouTubers and other influencers will be able to ask the kind of questions of those groups because they're ready-made focus groups.
That's true.
Well, this is the live tracker, which I try to put in every week. The last couple of weeks, there have been no changes, but this week, there have been 325 people killed in Lebanon over the last week. So now Lebanon has more casualties than Iran. They're at 3,696. Iran is only at 3,468.
And many more than the Israelis who were killed on October 6th. Wow.
Exactly.
Many, many more.
They just won't stop, and they keep the bombing going in Lebanon. It's horrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really sad.
Yeah.
Fascinating, too, how, Trump declared that we'd eliminated all of Iran's offensive threat, right? Annihilated everything. And most recently said, well, maybe they have about 20% of their missiles left. If you have a drone that can knock down a helicopter, then they're still able to fight.
Yeah, that's true.
It's again, the casualty of war in this case is always the truth. There isn't a single honest thing that comes from that administration.
And he's been doing that for weeks and weeks now.
Well, eventually peace will break out. So, if he keeps repeating it, about 10 years, he may be right.
Yeah.
As you predicted.
Wasn't that the incursion into Lebanon, wasn't that the sort of the point that Trump was trying to drive home to Netanyahu? Like, don't do that anymore.
Hmm.
I just want to be clear on that.
Yes, he's going against them. He wished they'd stop.
Yeah, but it's hard to stop because IDF, after you've emboldened them, empowered them, and financed them so thoroughly, they can do pretty much whatever they want under the guise of setting up a buffer. The whole country could become a buffer with that logic.
Oh, okay. This is our new segment, the Primary 2026.
Oh, cool. I like that.
And this is sort of an ongoing weekly series where we will check in on just how the primaries are rolling out. And this was the June 9th, Maine, Nevada, North Dakota, South Carolina. And after that, New York, Utah, Maryland, Colorado. So if you know people in those states, give them a call. If you have friends, call them and ask them. I don't know anyone, and that we don't hear a lot of the campaign ads and so on that are going on, but this is what's happening in Maine. The big thing is between this guy Graham Plattner and Susan Collins. It's the senatorial race, and Susan Collins is the incumbent, and Graham Plattner is the Democrat comer that's trying to get in, but he's got some problems. I don't know if you've been following that at all, but sort of
There is problems.
flawed candidate. Oh, I think he has a Nazi tattoo somewhere on his body.
Oh, this guy. All right, yeah.
And he's been sexting people, or what do they call it? He's got,
So it's a typical Maine person.
I guess so. But he's a Democrat, so I can't endorse him. And a lot of people are saying, well, I'd rather have Susan Collins. No,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would.
Well,
I
she
think,
always expresses deep concern. That's what I like about Susan Collins. Anything that comes up, she is very, very, very concerned.
Yeah, and when thoughts and prayers are necessary, she provides.
She's
us
right
with-
there. She's
Yeah.
out of concern.
so this is a race to watch. So it's boiled down to these two after the primary for that seat.
And it was really interesting. Heather Cox Richardson talked about, in response to someone's, one of her followers' questions about why is there so much coverage on Plattner, and she explained essentially because Plattner just came out of the blue. There was no prior oppositional research done on him as a candidate, and so that was just surfacing publicly. And then the media, of course, has just latched onto it and made a big deal about it. But she said these kind of things often come up and are addressed through, the lower level elections, either at the state level or a county level. And people decide whether or not they want to see a person go forward as a result. But in Plattner's case, no, he just rose to the top immediately. And so this is the normal process.
A blue-collar guy.
Yeah, he is. He's an oyster farmer.
Yeah.
That's right.
In Nevada, a race for governor that's going on, and it looks like they've got a Democrat, Aaron Ford, who's trying to take on Joe Lombardo, who's the incumbent governor right now. I don't know how that will play out.
Which one's Lombardo, the one on the right or left?
Yeah, the one on the right, Aaron Ford. I don't know his background, but that's the race to watch.
Yeah.
And Nevada's had Democratic governors in the past. It's not a red state. It's more of a purple state. So it could flip back to Democrat. North
But
Dakota.
we got Vegas.
We have Vegas?
Yeah, Vegas, we got Reno.
That's true. Yeah, because that's true. They're more blue in those urban areas. North Dakota was kind of a hard one to quantify, but Julie Fedorchuk is the congressperson, I believe. She's a congressperson, but she's got and she's the incumbent. This fellow, Ty Grieve Hammer, he's got a hard name to pronounce. He got a significant amount of votes, 34,000, but she got 59,000 in the primary. So she might just easily stay in the seat. Who knows? But that's happening.
Maybe a really helpful part of Primary 2026 segment would be to have, kind of a running total of whether we had a flip or not in each of these key positions or each of the ones we've mentioned before in the episodes prior.
Yeah, I mean, these are just the primaries, so it's just sort of establishing who's up against the other person,
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at the numbers of the primary voters, and primary votes normally pull in less voters, right? So we'll see how it plays out when it moves into the real election time. This is an interesting one. This is South Carolina. Lindsey Graham He's the incumbent, and he's I think in for his 5th term as governor. Is it 4th or 5th term? And he won, so he will be the GOP nominee for U.S. Senator. But he's going up against a Democrat who has some pretty big votes. Let me see. Here it is. Annie Andrews. Lindsey Graham had 263,000 votes, and Annie Andrews had 225,000 votes. So it's not too far off. So this could be a close one. I'm trying to figure this stuff out as I go along.
Yeah.
How long has Lindsey Graham been in the Senate?
This is either his 4th or 5th. I think he's going in for his 5th term as senator.
That ends up, if he wins 30 years, I mean, geez, we cannot continue to have an absence of term limits. He's just a voice piece for all things wrong.
He really is, and we need him out of there.
Yeah.
But, he's been riding around in Air Force One and talking about how great the Iran war is and everything. Maybe people will wise up to that when they start seeing the...
Maybe he should retire and go to Iran.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Grab a gun, do a tour.
I don't know what's going on there with Lindsey Graham. I'm thinking Epstein has files on him or something. And then there's the other race down below, the governor race. Pamela Evitt is the incumbent, I believe, and this Jermaine Johnson is the challenger. And their numbers were big. The Jermaine Johnson person, the Democrat, 221,000 versus 136. But then Alan Wilson, I'm sure since he's not the nominee, his votes will flip over. Well, Xavier Becerra is the gubernatorial candidate for California, going up against Steve Hilton. Tom Steyer has backed away, and that's official. But there's, you've heard Trump say that California's elections are rigged. Have you heard him talking about all this stuff?
Oh yeah,
he's insane.
Well, it's Thursday,
Governor.
What's the distraction piece for the day or the hour? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like every time an election goes the other way for Trump, it's rigged.
Right. It's so predictable. But that interview where he walked away, and I think I have a screenshot of it here, he sat down for a good over and a half an hour with the interviewer before he walked out. So it wasn't like he sat down for 5 minutes and then I'm out of here and walked away. They talked for a good half an hour.
Yeah, as long as they're talking on his terms. But as soon as she pressed and asked some questions that require some intellect, experience, and or evidence, then he blows up because he knows he's being held accountable. Oh, so you have it right here. Yeah.
Yeah, here it is. Her name is
Kristen Welker.
Kristen Welker, yeah, on Meet the Press. I don't know where they were, but they were in some kind of a shed with
in a barn
with deer tractors in the background, and the rain was coming down, and it was sort of stopping the interview at times.
He called
the hay bale there.
Yeah,
the hay bales.
Yeah.
That's Eddie. Did Eddie set those up?
Yeah,
Eddie.
He actually called her a coward journalist before he said everything was crooked. So that's the kind of person he is.
Yeah, horrible.
Yeah, they broke the mold when they created Donald.
Yeah.
Probably good. He is one hell of a character.
Yeah, he comes out on the offensive at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever watch that movie about Donald Trump's time with Roy Cohen? I think it's called The Apprentice. Very interesting movie. Always be on the offensive.
That's definitely Roy Cohen. That is definitely his style.
Yeah.
Roy Cohen. He is another number.
Yeah, the Trump family employed him as their lawyer for a while, and Donald learned quite a bit from him.
You know his backstory, of course.
Not entirely.
Well, you know that he was kind of the hatchet man for Joe McCarthy.
Oh, that's the connection. Gotcha.
That's where he kind of made his name. You go back and look at the McCarthy Army hearings. He's there. Along with Joe McCarthy's other little assistant, Robert Kennedy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
You mean the Republican Robert Kennedy?
Oh.
No, I mean the Robert Kennedy that got assassinated.
Wow.
Oh.
He was a McCarthyite too? Wow.
He was working for McCarthy, yeah.
That's interesting.
Think, what can I do now?
Yeah.
Well, this is a new segment we're working out, and the first one that Craig is going to take on, we're calling it now Observations from the Road. The title may change when people go out and visit other states, they come back with impressions, ideas, thoughts, and would like to hear them share on it. Craig, is this the map of your road trip?
Yeah, and it looks like I stopped in Denver, but no, just got tired of adding the stops on my Google Maps, and so didn't connect it all the way back to the Bay Area. But yeah, let's first talk about changing the title to On the Road in honor of Kerouac's work, and wanted to also reference John Steinbeck. Steinbeck went on a road trip after Grapes of Wrath and East of Eden, when he was nearing the end of his career as a writer, and wanted just to see how his view of the world resonates with people out throughout the country. And so this road trip was much the same. We were going out to visit family and friends, and this is where they were. So we traveled through Portland, Oregon, through Spokane, then up into past Coeur d'Alene, then into Rapid City, South Dakota, Chicago, all the way out to Buffalo, and the Steel Belt, or the Rust Belt, back through Iowa and Nebraska, stopping in Sioux City for family. Then the explosive growth was experienced in Denver, Colorado, and then we crept across the beauty of Utah and Nevada last week of May. It's a beautiful time to see, and ended up where we started. So about 6,000 miles. And what was really neat about it was that it was really unexpectedly, as I was driving through these areas, it made me think and try to understand more about how this is GOP turf across the nation. There may be bubbles throughout, but quite a bit of the red experience can be seen and perhaps understood when you're in this part of the world. Having lived in Texas for a number of years, that's always been a question for me: is why the heck do some people feel so strongly about this red tide? What need is it meeting? Why are they grabbing onto it as a solution for the future when they know it won't work either? And yet they're committed to it, and it almost has become a mythology for them. And so, for instance, up in Iowa, when we're going through Coeur d'Alene, you're thinking, my gosh, not more than a suburb away is a town called Hendley, which is the recognized capital in the country of white supremacists. So you've got this extraordinary beauty, but you've got that trenchant point of view that these people adore. And how is this happening? And so that's what I want to do, is just share some of these observations passing through the world. So
the white supremacist capital of the United States of America is in Idaho, and Hendley? Headley? How do you say it?
Hendley, Hendley.
Okay,
and
interesting.
That's, self-admitted. Of course, other people aren't pointing that out. Part of the fascination with this trip, it was really an epiphany for me, is friends who have experienced other friends or family members moving into Eastern Oregon or moving into Hendley, Idaho, and realizing with their points of view, their political perspective, how they were easily shunned and not, and palpably felt, man, we don't belong here. This is hostile to who we are as people. So there was a couple that went to Hendley and experienced that directly. So they're the ones that came back and said, yeah, it's recognized as being the center of this movement.
Wow.
So that made me think that, what I was hoping to do is see the lay of the land. And we did that. We traveled a lot on the interstate, but also we took a lot of purposeful small state highways and visited small towns. And what clearly I felt was, boy, I'm in GOP turf and really want to understand it. The first thing I wanted to share with great appreciation is how little did we see any Trump signage and merchandise. Whereas before, in 2016, when I was in Texas and frightened by a valley that, out in the countryside we went down because the number of belligerent Trump flags and signatures all over the place, said, geez, if I got a flat tire and my engine broke down here, I'd be frightened to call for help. But none of that exists. So the only over 6,000 miles traveled, and all I saw, kept an accurate count, was 3 faded signs about Trump, either Trump 2016, 2020, or 2024 election signs. And when I went into the trucker depots and the gas stations, no, very, very little Trump merchandise for sale, unlike what we saw before. And the only person, so 3 faded signs and 1 person with a current bumper sticker on his truck when he pulled into a gas station to get some diesel. And so I was really surprised by the absence of that. So people are asking questions.
Can we speculate as to why the signage has come down and the kind of boastful MAGA pride has kind of evaporated?
Yeah, I think they're sensing the snake oil, that they've been lied to, that the false pretense of freedom in America first is unraveling at the seams, and they're recognizing that in their work, in their personal lives, and in their communal experiences, whether they're going to church or not, and hearing some of it there, I don't know. But there's a real sense that boastfulness, that commitment, that pride in those false idols is greatly lessened. It feels like it did 20, 30 years ago for me.
Well, that's sort of good news in a way. That they're waking up a little bit and
they're waking up,
discarding those, that signage and stuff.
Exactly, the easy go-tos. And part of that was seen in the farm report. So I'd listen to the farm reports and watch those on television early morning. And all of those, of course, they're biased to the right. You can see right away they're following, those talking points. But they're also highly critical of farm policy and the loss of their soybean market. And some are critical, others are outright critical, like in Sioux City, where we're right there in the soybean belt, Iowa, South Dakota, and Nebraska. Their market has been lost, and so you have farmers that are speaking to the news and talking about how angry they are. And some are politically correct in what they're saying. Others are using very accurate language. But you would not have seen that earlier as well. So Trump is losing the farm belt as well. The other thing that was really important is this whole idea of people that I talk with there. They want to see immigrants. They just want to see a legal process for that. So they recognize they are immigrants as well. Their heritage is immigrants. So it isn't this white supremacy that's practiced in Idaho and elsewhere. In the Farm Belt, they're saying, yeah, we need this. We just want it managed, controlled, and legal. So that was really promising. The thing I want to really share, though, is this idea of the Bermuda Triangle. And I love the person we have shared friends from high school. And she's gone through and been meeting with a group of men and women for the last 20 years in an annual reunion where she comes back out to California and meets with this group. And she said she was really troubled by their mindset because they were going really alt-right, far-right. And she didn't understand that because they certainly weren't that way earlier in their life. So what was causing this? And she came up with this analogy of the Bermuda Triangle. And she said these people, she no longer meets with them because the differences are so great over the last 2 or 3 years. But she said these people are locked into this bubble, taking this Bermuda Triangle shape. And she says the challenge for them is they're locked into this idea. They go home after a day's work and believe a certain set of mythologies. That's then further emphasized in sharing with their work colleagues. And then they go into bars where they're hearing those repeated sentiments over and over again. And this vicious cycle has these people so secure in their thought that they aren't broadening themselves. They're not growing. They're not seeking out. They're not understanding. And when she shared this to me, it really made sense to me that's the kind of experience some of these people are having, and that why we can't understand them. And what I've learned, though, is we just need to let these people go because they're so entrenched with their values and points of view, no matter how disoriented and untruthful they are. That's where they are. So for me, I say, let the secessionists go. Let the white supremacists go. What we need to do is begin understanding all these people who aren't locked in the bubbles, the red bubbles, I should say. We need to do the same for the blue bubble and try to understand who they are, where they're coming from.
Maybe another lesson is we should start hanging out in bars.
Yeah, exactly, to find out what people are thinking. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, have access to their world. And that's what it was like an epiphany for me to finally be in this space where, that perception of coastal elitism can be felt by those who are living in different areas. And that they're not in charge of their lives, that someone else is. And that's a really uncomfortable feeling. So in the next slide, we'll see that play out. My friend also came up with this analogy. See, she said, in the left, we're also often thinking about, well, who are the Trumpsters? Who are the MAGA? And we often talk about lack of education. We also talk about, another symptom being people feeling left behind. But what she characterized it as is these people have spoken directly to her and said, no, it's about loss of opportunity. And so when I started to unpack that, I hope the next slide comes up quickly. Mm-hmm. When I started to unpack that, I saw that, okay, what does she mean? What does that mean with, what does opportunity mean for them? Hold on, let me bring that up real quick. Yeah, and I'll jump right into it. And so she quoted one person who said, yeah, the opportunity that we need has been given to others. And sometimes we misrepresent that. Somehow the alt-right is more racist than we. Racism is just a superficial accounting of this deeper feeling that these people have. And this really spoke to me. And so I tried to tease it out a bit. So opportunity that was meant for me. So people are seeing that opportunity that I grew up with expecting, that my parents had, my grandparents had, is my birth, that I matter. I am important no matter what I do, who I am, where I go, what I work, what my career is. The second point was opportunity that should be ours. So not just me, but it's our collective birthright as Americans born into this country, into the lower middle class, the middle class, the upper middle class. We deserve this. And of course, if you're born into poverty, you're saying, yeah, that's the American dream, I'm going to fight for it. And they believe our collective birthright, it's enshrined in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. That's how they're looking at the word freedom. That's how they're looking at the Second Amendment, opportunity is ours. And the third point is what's really important. And this opportunity, which is now given to others, people of color, etc., this opportunity that should be ours is available to us whether we avail it or not. This is really key. The idea that, hey, it should be there awaiting us. That's our birthright. Whether we choose to use it or not, that's what freedom is. And of course, personal choice, the consequences of not going on and getting an education or not working in a job that's going to have aspirational qualities and you're going to be able to make more money in the future or make good, clear decisions for your family. Those consequences aren't part of what freedom is. They want a kind of freedom that allows them to make these choices without also anticipating and weighing the consequences of what those choices might be. So this was our childhood. This was our teenage years, our young adulthood, and even into middle age. This was that sense that now for these people is lost.
It reminds me of that fellow Jake Lang, who's been in the news quite a bit. He's a far-right activist, and he's just saying the most outrageous things and doing these kind of stunts. Mm-hmm. And he has this same sense of entitlement, this,
Yep.
This is our land, and we have the birthright to be here, and you're giving it to other people. He's the embodiment of that feeling for many people, but he's been arrested a few times. But he was born in New York, which is sort of strange.
Yeah.
But maybe, I don't know, upstate New York, I don't know where he came out of, but he's a pretty horrible fellow.
Gangs of New York.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
The Daniel Day-Lewis character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for me, once I saw this, I thought, oh my gosh, okay, so what's fueling this is really this deep sense of identity. It's not political identity. This is at the deepest fundamental level of who you are and how you supposedly fit in with this larger experience of community and society and an economy. So when we talk about not being educated or being left behind, we're really missing it. That's a superficial understanding of who these people are, what they're feeling, and why they're clinging, why they were originally attracted to a huckster like Trump, but why some are still clinging to it.
Yeah, I mean, they feel betrayed,
yes,
and Trump has tapped into that
yes.
impulse of theirs,
right?
That sense of betrayal. We're going to get it back, and we're going to make America great again. We're going to go back to the way things were. We're going to and he knows how to play them.
And you're absolutely right, and that's why the evangelicals know how to play them, and why, in my view, that they're allowing senators from these states are allowing the grift and corruption to run rampant because they're benefiting from it, but they also understand their people are feeling a certain way and they want to believe the mythology. The other one, for us coastal elites right away was this idea of lack of education. When we hear this, we mistake or misjudge education as schooling or academic education, going to school, getting a professional career, et cetera, exposure. But what my friend helped me to understand is these people are a product of a lack of exposure, a lack of growth, whether it was they were seeking it out, personal growth, whether it was imposed upon them, or whether it was inevitable, like climate change. They're not responding positively to that and growing. And certainly there's this lack of broadening oneself, the idea that this is the birthright, this is who we are, this is what we should have. We should be able to engage in that and have successful, productive lives, meaningful lives, just as our parents before us did. So my whole point in this, the epiphany for me, is this is what we need to start working on, reaching out to these people, understanding them better, and communicating with them about their needs, rather than letting the hucksters, the dark enlightenment people, steal that from us. Harken back to FDR and how he spoke and messaged to all people in the country and told the capitalists, look, if you want capitalists to continue, we need to put some regulation and some tax revenues to work to make sure that this can survive. He was reaching out, listening to people of all walks of life in order to right the wrongs that had taken place from excessive capitalism and the stock market crash and the resulting depression. So the last slide or two speak to that. That's the epiphany for me is, okay, so I experienced this, felt it, didn't make this shit up, right? That thing where you're in a place and you just have a sense of what's happening. That's the experience for me.
Yeah. I mean, the question for me is, how do we pop that bubble? How do we communicate in a way that is meaningful or that makes sense or that cuts through their sense of betrayal and their...
Yeah, and exactly. In the next slide, again, my time is a bit off, but one of the things I think we can do, Roy, that's a great question, is very clearly we have differing interpretations between the right and the right and the left, the red and the blue, about things that are happening to us. And so one of the things you see and plays out, particularly in the Rust Belt but elsewhere, is the loss of small business. The towns are changing, that there aren't the small opportunities that were there before. And so this overt corporatization of our economy, that's part of their betrayal. They see that. And so let's start talking about that. Again, the media won't, but let's find ways where we can start talking about this, because that's what they need in order to be successful, is to feel as though that the economy is working on their behalf. But when they see this and then they hear the Fox talking points about mergers and acquisitions, or about Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk and all these people, all of that is just a smokescreen. We've got to blow that smoke away and say, look, this is what's really happening to us. When we see, the farm belts becoming increasingly run by large corporations, and then the lobbyists that are dominating the political process, you can see the farmers, the small farmers and the mid-sized farmers saying, no, this is not what the experience should be, and what we need to do to change it. So this slide was just talking about, gosh, we got to get better at each of these different kinds of experiences and try to explain those better. So our political leaders need to be able to address these, not just sideline them, or not really address them, but to come out and talk directly and committedly about them. And some are questions that they may have, but others, they're pissed off about the corporatization. They're pissed off about an economy that's committed to the asset class. The idea that our economy, 50% of it seems to be about generating more and more assets through the stock market and investments, instead of creating opportunity to build and produce things. And I heard it often as the idea that Epstein-Trump class is the ruination of our country. We can't allow the 1% or the oligarchs or the billionaires to be dominating who we are. That's not what we want.
Yeah, it's like Trump promised to drain the swamp, but he didn't drain the swamp. And kind of replaced those swamp animals. What's point 3? Excessive M&A. What does that mean?
Mergers and acquisitions. And so right now you've got, I think it's Paramount wanting to take over someone else, and there's only four, and so again, this becomes not a congressional process, but it becomes, I think the FCC is the one that brings the recommendations forward to the president, and the president is the one to sign it. So rather than having competition in media, what the alt-right wants to have is complete monopolization of media, such that you can censor broadly and extensively. So this idea of having, a small set of huge corporations running the world is something that we need to attack. And we need to say this doesn't create jobs or opportunity or economic growth for any but the asset class, but now just described in slightly different ways. And you see job availability, home ownership. In California here, we see both of those things are argued away, right? They're dismissed. They're just saying that's not who we are. It's just too difficult for us to find appropriate solutions for that. But that stuff really, really impacts people who are not on the coast. Then my final point, our democracy, then not just democratic reform, but democracy has always been dependent upon a clear, consistent, caring message that carries them forth. A message, I mean, a series of beliefs that shows that we care about one another, that we have an idea of who we are, where we come from, where we want to go, and that we follow through and practice that. So again, I reference FDR in so much of this because I marveled at how, even as an elitist, he was able to touch base through fireside chats and other movements and gestures to say, yeah, we care. We're going to change this because we care enough about that. That's entirely absent from the alt-right now. And again, that's an 80-year conspiracy that they've been doing that. But two examples would be what those small and mid-sized farmers need is they just need to have consistent farm policy that they can plan around. Right now, it's just a jigsaw puzzle, and they don't know what piece is going to be put in place. There's no certainty of anything. Instead of the corporate behemoths, instead of those big lobbies that are driving agriculture. And then for us on the left, we need, and everybody needs to be released from identity politics, not just the identity politics of past democratic positions, but also now look, we've got this huge divide in our country where we're identity bound, either right or left, blue or red, et cetera. And so we got to jettison all that crap and find something that speaks to all the people, or more of the people than we have in the past. So I'm seeing the world differently now, and want to know more and more about the right and how we can access this, and not look at it from the distance of lovely coastal elite perspective, but instead trying to get down on the ground with everyone and figure it out. And with that, I step off my soapbox.
I think that's a great goal for us. The challenge is that we have to hear this other side and kind of merge the bubbles together or something. I don't know why.
And I was hoping to be more concise with this, but the more I dug down into it, I said, oh my gosh, we're really talking about fundamental beliefs. And that sense that we all have just about that we matter, and that at the deepest level is that we are here for a reason and there's purpose in our lives. And the idea that we have to create economies and social structures that meet those needs.
I have a couple of comments, if that's okay.
Oh, love them. Yeah, please.
First of all, when we're talking about FDR, I think what really set FDR apart from pretty much every president that followed him, and certainly all the presidents before, is that he was pro-labor.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
The tanking of the labor movement in the United States, the gouging out of blue-collar jobs, impacts pretty much every state that you visited.
Absolutely right. Yep.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it was, that's what I felt. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, because, the unions gave, whatever you may think about unions, they're not angels, but they did provide a definite service in kind of leveling the playing field and also giving workers a voice. We don't have a Labor Party in the United States. That's unfortunate. In Minnesota, the Democratic Party is the Farmer Labor Party. Did you guys know that? That actually is the name of the party.
Yeah, wow.
And that harkens back to probably early to mid 20th century when farmers were largely on the left. A lot of those states that you went through had socialist mayors and other political figures. 100 years ago.
Yeah, my gosh, I didn't know. Wow.
Yeah. And there's no reason why you couldn't, switch back to that.
Mhm.
The other comment I wanted to make, and this is sort of an entry point, we're talking about mergers and acquisition. Healthcare
Yes.
in the Midwest
Hmm.
is a catastrophe.
Hmm.
There's a lot of this stuff going on. Hospitals are being shut down. They're being merged into these larger conglomerates, and they're making decisions based on the bottom line, which means that services disappear. People now have to drive like an hour to get to a doctor's appointment.
Mhm.
And in some parts of the country, there is a serious lack of mental health facilities. I think, like in, was it Wyoming? I read an article where they have a psychiatrist.
Hmm. A psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a
psychiatrist.
psychiatrist
Yeah. Yeah.
for the whole state. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know if it's quite that bad, but it's bad.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with a population that is under a lot of health stressors,
Yeah.
not least of which is addiction.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to come to Minnesota, you can see the lakes, the rolling hills, and the meth labs.
Hmm.
Jeez.
Instead of the casinos, right? The meth
Mhm.
labs. Wow. Yeah.
Well,
So
sorry state of affairs.
Yeah.
it is a repulsive state of affairs. This country
Right.
is not functioning
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a country anymore.
And we needed, an Upton Sinclairish movement that calls some of these things out and says, with the strongest, loudest voice possible, again, let's do something about this. We're better than this. We can create a world that provides for all and shows that we care. And even though if we're limping towards success, let's do that rather than fight amongst ourselves over the few scraps that are remaining.
We need an Upton Sinclair.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, maybe that's a good place to stop and give us a chance to reflect on this episode, which I think was powerful. Great opening segment on our On the Road series, which I hope will continue. Maybe
Yeah, thank
Eddie
you.
will contribute in the next one if he feels like it.
It's good. I love the question you posed, which is, we need an Upton Sinclair, and how can we do that? Can YouTube or other social media provide for that, given the heavy-handed censorship we're experiencing? We don't. Newspapers are no longer a viable source for people to communicate different ideas. So, yeah, what can do that?
One thing I wanted to mention, Bernie Sanders is not unpopular here.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like the one Democrat that seems to kind of cut through the bullshit.
Right.
They see everybody else as identitarian, woke, anti-gun. That's a big thing, by the way. That's a huge thing. We should probably get a Second Amendment at some point if we're going to continue this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually had a Trump supporter tell me he'd love to see a Trump-Sanders ticket.
Oh, wow. Yeah, wouldn't that be interesting? I'm hoping not the person, not Trump, but maybe a Trumpite. Yeah,
I wonder how
Sanders.
that would work. Ooh.
Yeah. two old men yelling at each other.
Well, thank you for being here today. Thank you for voicing your opinions and sharing. And I hope you come back again next week. Thank you for listening to A Bold and Distant Future. Thanks, everyone, for being here.
Pleasure is mine.
All right.
Yeah, thank
See
you.
All right. See you. Take care, guys.
Cheers.